All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. And we're back in Mets land, and it's getting a little crazy. I guess some people want to talk about the Mets. And so before we get into it, subscribe to the channel, like this video, let me know how you feel about it. And yeah, and here we go. But a lot to talk about this week. The question is, what do we want to start with? Do we want to start with the turmoil in the clubhouse, Senga coming back, um, a whole bunch of things to talk about. But I guess we're going to start with turmoil in the clubhouse. You know, I, we got the report from Disha that um, Lindor and McNeil got into a fight again, and they, you know, they still haven't been able to get along as far as teammates. And the question is this uh, Lindor issue or is this McNeil issue? That's really the question. And um, you know, honestly, I am not sure. Um, Lindor, Gold Glover. We know we see McNeil um, basically sometimes acting full after a strikeout and stuff like that. But the question is that um, rubbing Lindor the wrong way, or is that just something that that's just McNeil and it's not really the problem? Or is it um, that Lindor may be a guy that's not who we think he is? What do you guys think? The question is, um, who is Lindor? Is it Mr. Smiles? Is he Mr. Smiles? Or is he the guy that um, that report talks about, right? So the question is, what do we believe? And right now, what I believe is that Lindor, who knows? Because a few years ago, when he first got here, he was part of the thumbs down debacle, right? And so, is that Lindor? I mean, I hope not. Or is this just a reporter trying to get the LOL Mets um, back, right? Because everybody likes to talk about the Mets, and everybody likes to talk about the chaos that the Mets bring. I don't know which one that is. I believe because Disha is one that um, a couple years ago was starting a little bit. I'm not going to get into that because that's in the past. But is this something that they just want to start the LOL Mets? Is this something that they just want to keep the Mets as a laughing stock? Right? Because that's what they wanted to do with the Mets before. They wanted to have the Mets as a laughing stock. And the question is it the media wanting to have the laughing stock? Is it McNeil trying to create chaos? Is it Lindor not being the teammate that we think he is? All questions, right? Why is this another question? Last year we were all but anointing Lindor as our captain, and even though that I don't know who the culprit is in this situation, you might want to kind of um, start thinking about, is Lindor our captain? Um, and if he's not, you know, why is it that he keeps getting into the media? It keeps talking about him and McNeil. I don't know. is that captain material? Uh, you tell me. I don't know if that's a good thing to have, but but at the end of the day, we heard Soto's comments of who the real captain was, at the beginning of the season. And so, is was that a true shot at Lindor, or that was just Soto speaking for his buddy, and he wanted to hype up his buddy Marte? Honestly, I don't know. At this point, I'm a big Lindor fan, so it's not that I'm here talking against Lindor. I'm a big Lindor fan. At least his play, he comes up clutch. He's a good player, and I don't have any reservations on Lindor. But it is a question for him being a captain. Did this come out so that he isn't the captain? That's another good question, right? And all these things because everybody wants to keep the LOL Mets. And the question is that valid? Don't know. You hope not. You hope that this is just the media trying to get it done, and it's not a real situation, right? The media trying to keep that LOL stigma on the Mets, and it's not the real situation. That's my hope. The hope is that um, that is the problem that the media can't get over, that we got a good owner, and that we're going to be up there with Dodgers eventually, right? So that's what I believe. I believe this is all just media driven. I believe that this is one of those things where the media is just trying to make headlines right now, especially after the Nimmo trade, right? After the Nimmo trade, um, you know that um, it's something that you don't know what is possible with this team, right? Nobody's safe. So anybody that um, is up for grabs, right? Do you think Lindor's up for grabs? I don't think so, right? Just like Lindor, just like Soto, he's not. Um, he's not going anywhere. And so, um, but everybody else is on the market, right? You got McNeil, that we think is going to be traded right after the Simeon trade. Who wants him now? I don't know. Are they going to be deterred by the infighting that the Mets are going on with, or is it something that will turn off some suitors? I don't know. I don't think so because McNeil's a good player, regardless of the perception that we have as Mets fans of him having an attitude issue. So the real question is, who will he be traded to? Actually, is the real question, and that is wait to see, right? You know, with with McNeil, he's a very valuable player because of his versatility, right? That's the thing that Stearns wants to promote, is that he is a very versatile player, and so he's a guy that can play anywhere. I don't think he'll be playing center center field for anybody, but he's a very versatile player that can play anywhere. And now with Simeon here, he doesn't have a fit. I know Stearns talked about potentially him playing first. The question is, if we do keep him, can he be that guy off the bench? But you usually want your guys off the bench to, these versatile guys off the bench to be versatile, be defensive guys first. Sorry. And so the question is, where is he going to get traded? Because I don't think you keep a guy like McNeil on the bench and be your bench guy. But it's possible. If there are no takers for McNeil, I could see him being our bench piece and being that guy. But if it's true that him and Lindor don't get along, then do we take less to trade him that normally you would if you were Stearns? I don't know. That may be a possibility. Just to get rid of him. Um, I know some people don't like McNeil because of his outbursts and attitude sometimes. Uh, his visible outbursts and attitude, right? Because the whole thing with Lindor was private, so we don't see every Lindor um, outburst, right? I know somebody put there on Twitter, a clip on where it might have been where um, Lindor got upset with McNeil. We don't know. We don't know if that was really the case. It was a double play attempt, and McNeil lobbed the ball over to Lindor, and they didn't complete the double play. And um, the question is, if it was a faster turn, would he have been able to complete the turn? We don't know. At the end of the day, we don't know. So I'm not too concerned about that clip. I know some people wanted to raise some speculation on that, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know how much I believe that. But at the end of the day, the real question is, um, will McNeil, if we do keep him, be a good soldier and be a guy off the bench? I think he would, to a certain extent, right? If we give him enough play time, which we could, because he's a guy that can play anywhere, right? But now that we don't have Nimmo, we created another hole when the Mets have a whole bunch of holes that they need to fill. And so, with the trade of Nimmo, do we need two outfielders? I think we do. Let me rephrase that. Benj is looking like he's going to be either a center fielder or left fielder. Or for some people, they want to move Soto to left and Benj our right fielder. I don't know if Soto would move for a rookie, because that's unproven. The rookie would be unproven at that point. And he would not want to move for somebody unproven. I would think, if it was me, I wouldn't want to move. I know everybody has the um, trust and expectation that Benj will be that guy, but we really don't know at the end of the day. So um, we'll see what happens with that. Um, but at the end of the day, I don't think he'll move right away to left field. So, um, it's one of those things where, um, as a veteran, you don't want him to move, right? Um, because why would he? He's an unproven guy. Sorry, as I lose my mic. He's an unproven guy, and he's a guy that um, will. We have to wait and see who he is. But the hope is that he will be that guy. But the question is, who's the other guy? A lot of people have been floating around the idea of Fernando Tatis. Can we do that? I don't know. Is he available? I don't know. I would love a Fernando Tatis, but is he available, or is it something that it's just talk by some Twitter X spaces and um, some other places. Um, because I've been in a bunch of spaces, and Tatis is the big name right now that everybody wants to talk about, and the question um, is he available? I would love to trade. I'll send Bench um, over to San Diego if Tatis is available, and pair him up. Because we do know that Soto would move for Tatis. You know, he's a guy that um, is is would move and um, and would move for a guy like Tatis because he's just that kind of player. All right, Victor's trying to get on, so we're trying to get him going. But let me pull him on and see what his thoughts are on the whole clubhouse drama.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all just a story, you know. I don't know how much we can buy into this clubhouse turmoil. We saw the stuff that happened last year with Jeff McNeil, or not in 2023, that happened with Jeff McNeil. And this is just the old song and dance, you know. Reporters are looking for anything to write about right now. And I think that they're just aiming to, you know, it's always they're always looking for something to go wrong. And whenever you have a superstar join a team, there's going to be questions. You know, there's going to be questions as to who's leading the clubhouse, who's really in charge. You know, it's making it sound like Lindor is like one of these troublemakers. You know, a guy that can't is hard to work with. But I don't think that's the case. You know, from the things that we've seen in the public, from the way that he presents himself, I don't think that Lindor is that guy. You know, I mean, you guys can. If you guys might be able to see, I got a Lindor jersey back there. I'm 100% a Lindor supporter. So any of this bias that goes against him, um, I just can't believe it, you know. And so, um, you know, Jeff McNeil is going to be traded this year. I think you've already said that. He's going to be traded at the end of this offseason. And Juan Soto's here to stay. So, you know, Lindor's got 6 more years on his contract. He's in it for the long run. They're all about winning. If they have one thing in common, it's that Lindor and Soto both want to win. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters is that they want to win. And so, all this clubhouse turmoil that they talk about, it's just to get some clicks, clickbait here and there, to get something to talk about. And I mean, look at us, we're talking about it. It's fun to talk about, but at the end of the day, I think it's all, you know, just bogus. There's nothing there.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you on that. I don't think there's anything there either. But it's something to talk about. It's a long off season, and we got something to talk about, like you said. And so, before you got on there, we talked about some of the rumors. Well, I talked a little bit about the rumor of Tatis potentially being available, being that guy to come over. And what are your thoughts on a potential Tatis trade?
Now, you know, I wasn't on to talk about the Nemo trade last week, but just my quick few thoughts on that. I tend to agree with Stearns. You know, we needed the change in the clubhouse. We needed the change on the field. We couldn't keep on running the same core. As much as we loved how it worked in 2024, I don't think it was going to happen again in 2026. So I do think that we needed to change up. I think Simeon is a great player and is going to add value to this team, whether it's on the defense or on the offense. You know, he's 35 years old, but I think he still has that explosive bat in him. And Tatis is just as much of an explosive bat for us too. I think that if he were to come over, then you know that would be amazing. I don't think it's the only move that we should make. We definitely need to go out and sign a first baseman or a DH, whether that's Schwarber or Pete, or one of the Japanese guys. But Tatis is definitely a great addition. And you know they haven't tried him out in center field, but I feel like that's a position that he can play with just his athleticism. Um, I think that he could be an addition in center field if push comes to shove. But out in left field, that guy's an athlete. Started off as a shortstop. Um, he's like that Mookie Betts type where he can play all around the field, and so him coming over. The Padres are going to try to shake things up next year. They're always trying to win, but maybe they're in the same boat as the Mets, where they're like, we got to get rid of one of these players, and a lot of their guys, you look at them, and Tatis is the only one that really makes sense with the money that's attached to everybody else. And so I would love to see it. And I do think we have a hole in the left field that needs to be filled. And so I think Fernando Tatis Jr. is that perfect piece.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's one of those things where um, you want that guy. You want that Fernando Tatis type of player because he's just that one that guy that will produce. I was talking about sending a bench over in that trade. I think you send whoever needs to be sent right in that trade. What other players you think would be a possibility for the Mets? Because right now we have a hole with Nimmo being gone, right? So um,
Yeah, that's just so tough sending Benj over because just about what it could be, now that we have Simeon, I honestly feel better about sending Jet over instead of Benj because of the positions. Benj has that center field aspect to him where we think that he's going to get that opportunity from the way that Stearns is talking in the media, that he's going to get that opportunity to play on the opening day roster and maybe at center field. And so center fielders are hard to come by, and if Bench can be that piece, then that would be tough. Uh, you know, I think that the Padres would be really interested in a lot of the pitching, given that they're losing two guys this year uh, that are losing them to free agency. One that just signed with the Blue Jays, Dylan Cease, and Michael King, who probably will sign in the next few months or next couple of months to another team. I would be surprised if he went back. And so I think that the Mets, as much as we love our pitching prospects, would have to part ways with some of their top pitching prospects. And so, that might mean bye to Brandon Sproat, bye to maybe even Jonah Tong, bye to Jonathan Santucci, these guys that are blowing up in the farm system that are great prospects might have to be gone. And if we were to give a position player away, that cat that just that showed out in the winter league that plays all over the field might be appealing to them too. Blanking on his name, but he could be a positional player that we send over where he can play catcher. He steals bases, first base, outfield. He plays all over the field. So I think that we would be pitcher heavy in that trade with one or two pieces, maybe even a Ryan Clifford if we're willing to go out and sign a first baseman. We know that Ryan Clifford isn't going to be ready by next year, so maybe we send out Ryan Clifford for that package, even though they might not need a first baseman, or maybe they do because Luis Arias um, is a free agent now, and so I think that it would be tough, but for me, Carson Bench is one of those untouchables now.
yeah, and that is a good possibility of that. At the end of the day, you don't want to trade that centerpiece, and I don't think Stearns wants to trade that guy. He's not a guy he, that wants to trade Benj. I think Benj is his prize piece, but when you think about a guy like Tatis, you never know. Your prize piece might change. So we'll see with that, but. Um, the question is also these rumors about potentially signing Framber Valdez. And we saw a rumor a 6 year $200 million contract, I don't buy it. They might be in on Framber. I kind of hope not. I'm one of those that didn't like the whole messing with the catcher thing. But Framber is a guy that you want to see, not on the Mets. I'm not a big fan um, um, of a Framber guy, uh, but if they are in on it, it's not for 6 years and 200 million. That is a ludicrous deal, because if you're in for 6 years, 200 million, you should have been in for with Dylan Cease at 7 to 10. Right? One, I don't like it, but because I'm not a big Framber fan at this point, even though I have him on my fantasy team. But I'm not too sure of a Framber fit on this, especially if Lindor is a problem. but, but what do you
Yeah.
think?
No, I mean, we need less headaches in the clubhouse, so that's for sure. And Framber, with all of the, even if it's not true, with all of the stuff that's following him in the media, I think that I just don't want him on the team. Not so much because of the clubhouse stuff, but mostly because to me, he was always a number two. I don't think he was ever the ace that everyone is pointing him out to be. Yes, he's a bulldog. Yes, he pitches in the playoffs well, and he's made those ace level starts. But to me, he doesn't scream ace level pitcher. Even when he was making that, even when he was on that World Series team with Justin Verlander, Justin Verlander was the ace, and he was the number two. And following year, I don't think that he ever. Um, lived up to the ace potential that they would let Justin Verlander go and they were expecting Framber Valdez to be their ace. And so that's just my personal opinion. I don't think that he's worth that much money. And if I were speaking for David Stearns, I don't think that he's thinking that either. I don't think that he finds him to be of the caliber of signing a long year deal. And we know that he's already iffy on signing pitchers for long year deals. The most that he's given out so far is a 3 year deal with some options, and look how that's turned out so far. And so there are not many pitchers that are going to push Davis Stearns over the edge, and I don't think that Davis or that Framber Valdez is that guy that's going to push him over the edge. And so, and like I you know I haven't spoken to you guys in a while, but I've had this opinion for a while. There's not a free agent pitcher on the market right now that pushes me past for maybe or 5 years, let alone 4 years. And so, I think that we find ourselves in the category of signing one of these free agents for a big AAV, shorter term deal. So if we get Frember Valdez for a 3 year deal on a 30 $35 million uh, a year deal, then I would be all for that. But Frember Valdez is not a 6 year deal kind of guy for me.
Yeah, no, and I completely get that. Um, he's not a guy for me
And
too.
I talked about Michael King. Michael King is one of those guys that is exciting for me, and so if and I think he's going to be cheap because he did get that qualifying offer. He's more of the guy that I think that is the David Stearns type that you see him getting that bigger deal, high AAV, less terms and years. He is an older pitcher, I think, just like Framber Valdez. He's closer in age to that, and he's going to be more affordable. And I think that we've seen him pitch in the playoffs really well. And if we're looking for just a guy to fill the gaps, then that's our guy. I mean, we got to think of all the guys that we have, not just coming through the system, but coming back this year. Guys like Nolan McLean, who we were excited about last year. I really do think that. As much as our starting pitcher stunk last year, I do think that these guys are a lot better than what the paper showed last year, um, with Manaya and Senga. And then we got to remember about the exciting prospect from 2024, and Christian Scott, who was lights out in the middle of the season and then got hurt. And we were all expecting him to be something, somewhat of a bulldog and a great guy. And so, if we're looking for a real starting pitcher, it has to be someone that blows me out of the water. And yeah, like I said, I don't really know anybody on that longer term deal that really blows me out of the water this year.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I completely agree with that. So not so much on the Michael King part, but on the fact that we got some guys that are guys that I think we have some kind of um, trust in, right? Some guy, I know that the fan base doesn't want to hear that, but I do believe that we have some kind of trust on some of these guys, and so I don't think it's going to change a lot in depth wise, but I do think there might be a trade for one of these guys, and who that guy is, whether it's Joe Ryan or Sandy Alcantara. We'll see who that guy is. But as far as the free agents go, I think I would do a hard pass on these free agent pitchers, unless a Michael King wants to come and be on a shorter deal, which might not be something that he wants to do. You know, or does he want to come on a prove it deal with some opt outs because of the type of year that he had because of the injury plagued year that he had? Those are questions that
Yeah,
that might be an option. If he comes here on a 1 year or one of those deals that with an opt out, I think that might be good for Michael King. But I think that's the only free agent pitcher that I kind of like on my end.
yeah, him, and another guy that everyone is counting out, but I'm still pretty excited about is a Zach Gallen. You know, Zach Gallen was an ace just 2 years ago for the Arizona Diamondbacks when he helped lead them to a World Series. And, you know, it didn't quite work out for them. They obviously fell short, but he didn't have the best of years. You know, he's 30 years old, so he's right in the middle of his prime. You know, he is one of those guys that throws the kitchen sink at you, and you know, he's just gritty, you know, and I do think that he had still has that ace level potential in him, and I don't think he's going to be expensive at all. I think he's going to be one of those guys that we could get on a 2 year deal at an option after the first, because he's going to be looking to get his bag after the first year, after proving that he can pitch. And so yeah, Zach Gallen and um and Michael King are at the top of my free agent board for starting pitchers.
Yeah, another guy that is coming off of a bad, not a bad year. I'm not gonna say that it was a bad year, but it was an okay year. And Zach Allen's another guy that I'm not too confident in. I know he's proved it in the past. I know that he's a guy that was part of that team that went to the World Series against the Rangers a few years ago. But I don't think he's that guy. But again, I'd be open to it on a prove it deal, right? If he's on a year deal, multi-year deal with some opt outs, I might be in for that because at that point, if we don't trade one of our young guys, they might want to, they might be ready to take over. And and if Zach Gallen opts out, we can just let him go to another team. Or Michael King opts out, we can just let him go to another team. And not sign that long-term contract on guys that may or may not um, have long-term in them. They might be guys that 1 year they're good, 1 year they're bad, and so that's that. If they're short deals, on prove it multi opt out deals, I think I would be on board with that. So um, yeah. What about let's transition into the next topic because a lot of us thought that this guy um, is going to be traded. This guy may still be traded, but a report just came down by Will Salmon that Senga has let the Mets know that he wants to stay a Met. He wants to, um, he bleeds blue and orange, and he wants to stay a Met. And at the end of the day, Senga is a good pitcher when he pitches, right? Or let me rephrase that: when he trusts his mechanics, because for a while he's a guy that didn't trust his mechanics, and so is he a guy that you can trust? Do we keep him? Because he was leading the league in ERA in the beginning of the season last year until he got hurt, until Alonso hurt him. But is he that guy? Is he the guy that we should keep and leave on his team? I know a lot of people have shown interest in him, but is he the guy that should stay on this team? Because somebody has to be traded for us to sign a couple of these guys, right?
Maybe. You know, we think that, but at the end of the day, David Stearns can be as creative as he wants and as ruthless as he wants. So if there isn't a suitor for Senga, um, he's either going into the bullpen, which we know isn't great for him, and so if he doesn't perform at towards the beginning of the year, where that 3 month stretch that David Stearns likes to give, then we could see a Ranky Montas kind of deal where he gets cut because he's on a cheaper deal where he's only pitching for what $60 million this year, and so it's going to be interesting to see. And I absolutely want to keep Senga. We saw how electric he was, almost winning Rookie of the Year in 2023, getting Cy Young votes that year, and being electric. In the starts that he made in 2024, minus the playoffs, obviously he had a rough couple of starts there, but this past year, I think he was just on top of his game. He got thrown off, and we saw what happens when he gets in his head. And as much as we like, I think it all circles back, and it all comes first full circle to what we talked about at the beginning of the show, where the clubhouse was in turmoil somehow, whether it was Lindor, whether it was just getting used to Soto, whatever it was. I think it was affecting everybody, and I've always said this because even in 2023, when things were going bad, we saw Tommy Pham come out with stuff talking about how that was bad. And how it affected everybody. And I think that Senga was, a guy that was affected by that. And so I think if we get things right with him this year, he can be one of the leaders in that rotation that gets things going. Is a stopper like he was in the first half of the year. You know, he had a lot of foot traffic on the bases. It wasn't always pretty, but he was always effective. He always got the job done, and he was pitching quality starts. And it's just one of those things that when we see a pitcher struggle, our first instinct is, oh, they've lost it, they lost their mechanics. But how often have we seen starting pitchers just bounce back and become their old selves, or become something completely new? And Senga's definitely got the stuff for that. And so I want to see him in Met. I want him to stay here, and if that means making room for him. We saw an experiment last year where they started Senga or they did the piggyback game where it was Manaya and Senga, I think, or Manaya and McGill. No, not McGill, Peterson. And so it could be another situation like that where Senga starts the game, Manaya finishes it. One of those guys can go into the bullpen. There's a lot of creative ways that we can work with this. We've talked about Manaya being a lights out late inning reliever. And so there's some ways that we can work with it, but I definitely want to see Senga, uh, you know, fulfill the rest of his contract.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you on that. I know that he supposedly is a valuable trade piece in the trade market, but I think Senga is a guy that when he's on, he's lights out. So to give that up might be hard to do, and I don't think you want to do that. But I agree with you on that. Out of the trade market, the talks are about a Joe Ryan, Sandy Alcantara, those kind of guys, but they're all drawing interest from other places. Um, Scooble, I think we talked about before, but it's one of those guys that I don't think he's going to get traded. Detroit has money if they want to sign him long term in the offseason. I think they're not one of these middle of the road teams, so I don't think like a Cleveland or Milwaukee. They have the potential of signing not like a New York or an LA, but they have a team that can sign a multiple big contracts, and I think Scooble's that guy that they would resign, and he's shown interest that he wants to stay there. So, sorry, out of the guys that are available, who is your choice? My choice would be Sandy Alcantara. I know everybody's on the Joe Ryan kick. I believe that Sandy, another year after Tommy John, would be that guy that gets back to Cy Young form.
Yeah, no, and I've always been a Sandy fan. I've always believed in him to be Cy Young, even when he wasn't pitching so well. So I'm definitely agreeing with you there. I love Sandy, even though he shuts us out. I think he's just an electric pitcher. And just to close out the Senga discussion, I don't want to just trade Senga just to trade him. I don't think that's a good idea. But to be different from you, from the Sandy Alcantara pick, I'll always be we always got to go with the Cy Young, back-to-back Cy Young. In the recent future, in the recent past of Tyreek Skubal, and if we can pull off a trade like that, that would be awesome. I don't see that happening at all. And the same thing with Paul Skeens. That 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 would be awesome. It would be crazy to see him come to the Mets, especially seeing all the rumors of how he wants to be in New York, and Livy Dunn, his girlfriend, bought a monastery school here, and um, it would just be a dream come true. But he has so much control that I don't know how much they would be willing to give up for him, and if that's even realistic. The Pirates and the Tigers don't sound like they're looking to do that, but those would be the dream trades. I would love to see those two Cy Young pitchers coming off of their Cy Young years come over to the Mets. And Joe Ryan, he's exciting and he's young. I just don't know how much I trust him to pitch in New York. And, he doesn't, I don't, I'm just don't get a good enough stuff from him. He had a great year this past year. Outside of that, um, he's not something that gets me excited. I think we have a lot of guys in the club in the system like him right now, and so the guys that we don't have are guys that have already done it. Who have already proven that they're top of the league starting pitchers, and I think there's only a handful of guys that you can put in that category, and Sandy, Tariq, and Paul are all in that category for me, and so would love to see it, but we'd have to trade off an arm and a leg to get those guys over here, even if it's a Sandy Alcantara, because they obviously believe that they still have something there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And there's a team that says that they want to spend money, but we'll see. The Skeens thing I think is also pretty hard to do because of the years of control. But if he's available, obviously I would want a guy like that. But with that so many years of availability, I don't think he's a guy that is available like that. So, but we'll see. But we'll see. You know, if the trade with Joe Ryan, the only way that I would like a trade with Joe Ryan is with to see. Um, um, no, now I'm drawing a blank on his name. The center fielder.
Oh, with
Oh,
Byron
Buxton.
Buxton, yeah,
Buxton. Yeah,
yeah, that
Buxton.
would be
Man,
awesome.
it's crazy drawing a blank on that name. He's on your
Sorry, I
fantasy.
was thinking the more realistic one in Chicago with
Oh,
Luis Robert, but yeah, no, Buxton would be awesome. I mean, and we've already seen a crazy trade this year, and so if we can pull off something like that, even if it's with Pablo Lopez instead, um, Pablo Lopez um, and Byron Buxton come over here, I think that would be awesome.
yeah. No, well, everybody talks about a Robert. you I believe I don't know if you feel this way, but I believe that they literally picked up that option to try to fleece the Mets on the trade, right? Because he's not worth $20 million. He's not a player that's worth $20 million, and anybody who I believe has a baseball mind would not have signed him, would not have picked up that option because he's not that player right now. He can be, but he's not that player right now. So I do believe that he's not an option for the Mets just because, Reinsdorf himself has come out and says he's not a big fan of Cohen. And so any trade with the White Sox, it's going to be a steep, a deal for the Mets. And I don't think Stearns is going to do that contract. So I don't even think Robert is a realistic option for the Mets because of that. I could be wrong, but for me, I think that's not going to happen because Chicago just, or at least the ownership, hates the Mets, and so that's why the Buxton is more realistic because now he's actually open to trading his no trade clause. Just like he wasn't ready to do it in the middle of the season, but now that he sees that Minnesota's not really playing for it, he's ready to move on. And if we could swing a trade and include Buxton in that, whether it's Pablo Lopez or Ryan, I could take either or because at the end of the day, uh, for me, either of those guys are number twos. They're not guys, even though they would start in front of Nolan McLean. I could see Nolan McLean surpassing them halfway through the year if he continues the trajectory that he's going. And so I'm not, either way, either guy is good for me. The question is, how much are we giving up? And I'm not a guy that's going to get stuck in all these, well, we're going to give out all these guys. We don't know who Minnesota likes. The question is, who does Minnesota like, and we don't know that. Is it a Jet Williams? I don't think this trade for Simeon keeps us from keeping Jet Williams because at the end of the day, the Simeon contract is only 3 years, and Jet might not be starting for us this year because you've heard Stern say he needs a little bit more seasoning. But I could see if we don't swing a trade and keep Jet in our organization, I could see, if Simeon doesn't bounce back, I could see Jet challenging him either at the end of the season or next year for that playing job for playing at second base. So I'm not one of these that has to trade a Jet Williams because now we got Simeon. But if it brings back Buxton, see you, Jet.
No, absolutely. I'm totally behind that. You know, Buxton is a generational talent. You know, we saw him break out just a few years ago, but he also has a lot of injuries to attached to him. Yeah, every year there's been something, and so that's the only thing that would scare me. But when he's on the field, he's dynamic, and so if we were able to land a guy like Byron Buxton, that would solve a lot of problems, especially when center field is such a hard position to fill. And so if there's a package deal that can come with that then I'm all for that. Another one that I might be interested in a package deal while we're on the topic. Because there are a lot of names being floated out right now on the free trade market. We guys like Freddie Peralta who are probably not being traded, with Hunter Green who are probably not being traded. Um, you know, got Mackenzie Gore, who's probably not being traded. But a guy that I can see being traded this offseason. We talked about the Pirates already, and I think the Pirates are going to try to build around Paul Skeens while he's under control. And a guy that's also a dynamic pitcher with another dynamic bat. Is Mitch Keller and an O'Neill Cruz coming over on a package deal to the Mets. Now that's a trade that I'd be interested in just because we've seen how electric O'Neill Cruz can be. We know that he can play center field. We know how powerful he is, and him in a New York environment. With all of the juice already flowing, I think would be awesome. And adding another bulldog to the rotation. Mitch Keller isn't that ace guy that we've known, or that the Mets fans are looking for. But to me, he definitely is a stopper. For a while, for a couple of years, he was the ace of their club, and until Paul Skeens came along and took that deal from him. And because they have so many guys, so many young guys in their system, Mitch Keller is a guy that I think they could trade in the near future, and maybe even add an O'Neill Cruz because we know that he hasn't been a consistent piece for them.
Yeah, not a bad guy to bring up. The only thing is with me is defense, and we talked. Stearns talked about run prevention, and we know that O'Neill Cruz can play center field, but he doesn't play it well. So um, will he stay in center field if he gets traded over to the Mets? I don't think so. I think you would move him to a corner. But, and I know you love your Mitch Keller. You got him on your fantasy team, so I know that you love a Mitch Keller. Uh, Stopper is a very strong word for Mitch Keller, but it's not a guy that I have an issue trading for. If you bring back a talent like O'Neill Cruz, but I don't see Pittsburgh trading for him because they're in talks of signing Kyle Schwarber, right? So I don't see them trading away on O'Neill Cruz. They might trade Mitch Keller, but I don't see them trading O'Neill Cruz when supposedly the reports are out there that they want to sign a Kyle Schwarber. That's the only thing that would make me hesitant on them actually wanting to trade him. But if he's available, by all means, let's bring him in, put him in a corner. But between him and Soto, that might not be the greatest defense out there in the outfield. So, but not a bad guy to talk about. So I I don't mind talking about it, but we're getting close to an hour on this video. So let's finish off with this last question. Do we see this week, before the winter meetings, do we see either Alonso or Diaz sign with the Mets? We just saw Helsley sign with the Orioles, 2-year deal, which in a way hurts Diaz's market because he's looking for a big time closer money, and I don't think the Mets are as far. You know, because I think if the Mets would have gone, given him the deal that he wants, because supposedly he wants the same deal that we gave him a couple years ago, just you know now. So the extra years are on the back end. If we would have gave him that, we would have signed him before free agency began. It sounds like, you know, but it doesn't seem like anybody's willing to give him that right now. And with Pete Alonso, you know, now that we don't have Nimmo, are we giving him the extra years that he's looking for because we don't have to worry about a Nimmo at DH clogging up DH for us? Because we know at the end of the day, with Soto being 27, he's not going to want to DH anytime soon. At least for 4 or 5 more years, right? You know, I could see him starting to DH around 32, maybe, and that's a big maybe. You know, because I think he still wants to play the field. So now that we don't have Nimmo clogging up the DH, do you think that Pete signs this year and he gets the extra years that he wants?
You bring up a few good points there. With Helsley signing this past year, or this past week, that that is a good possibility that Diaz can sign. The only reason I would say no is because he opted out of his deal. You know, we know that he already made some comments that he hopes to return. Not that he or that he's reminiscing on the Mets. What is what it seems, which means he's going to go out there and try to hear what the offers are. He's going to try to figure out what the market is saying he's worth, and if it's uh, I believe that the Mets have already pitched their deal. I know that Davis Stearns is probably already working with their agents to see what kind of deal could bring them back. Diaz is the best reliever on the market right now, and he's going to have a market, whether that's in LA or with a rebuilding team like the Pirates, who say that that they're trying to win right now. But he's going to attract attention, and I don't think he's going to sign before he hears what he's going to get. And same thing with Alonso. He obviously wants to be a Met more than Diaz does, because he was homegrown here. He has a lot of sentiment to the club, and he's. Uh, I believe he's a lifelong Met, no matter if he resigns with us or not. I think he's going to retire a Met if he ends up um, going into the Hall of Fame. And this is the matter of being having your number retired, because if he finishes his career as a Met, he's obviously going to have his number retired, and he might even do that just because he's already broken so many records. And so with both of those guys, it'd be hard to see them sign, but I would definitely lean more towards Diaz because we've already seen a domino drop on his side of the market, and it could be another situation. We're waiting until the spring training to see if he signs a deal. But I'm excited for the winter meetings this week. I think that it's going to be very interesting, not just on the free agent market, but on the trade market too.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I'm totally excited for the winter meetings. You know, we still got some time, but I'm hoping that we get something this week. I don't want to wait until the winter meetings next week to hear something. You know, I know that you're probably right. The Diaz, um, we might not hear until the winter meetings to sign because he wants to see how much this Helsley contract probably hurt him. You know, if we see another of those closers sign, then we might see something happen with Diaz. But until then, I think Diaz is going to try to extend this out because um, those guys are the guys that the Suarez's and those guys are the depending on what they get. Obviously, they're probably only going to get 1 year contracts because of their age, but he wants to know how much money they're going to get. That's I think what he's waiting for. And on Pete, I think that he's going to sign this week. I honestly think that he's going to sign this week. I don't think he's going to wait. I think the whole deal was getting rid of Nimmo so we could give him those extra years, at least a fourth year, maybe not a fifth year, but at least a fourth year on that deal. So let's hope that happens this week, and we got something to talk about next week. Because I don't want to talk about clubhouse stuff next week, right?
No, that would be awesome. And Stearns has proven to be ruthless. So it would be interesting to see if we end up not eliminating Diaz out of the equation, but if we end up signing one of those other guys or one of those other closers on a 1 year deal before signing Diaz, and having Mets fans freak out because that's the move that we made, thinking that that's the replacement for Edwin Diaz. Um, you make a good point about Brandon Nimmo being traded away, making room for Pete Alonso. I would love to think that's how Stearns operates, but until it's proven, I gotta believe that this man is just ruthless.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, guys, let me know what you think. Leave a comment when you see it, watch it on replay. Let me know how you feel about potentially Pete or Edwin signing this week. Let me know how you feel about Senga potentially staying and wanting to stay. Maybe this is the big turnaround for Senga, where he gets motivated to want to stay on the mound instead of worrying about his mechanics so much. Who knows? And how would you feel about that? And before we get out of here, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, let's go Mets.
Let's go, Mets.